All right. Hello, everybody. Here to do a quick little video of the mostly complete modifications I made to Gene Buckle's Series 1 cockpit. So a little bit of background first and foremost. So Gene developed this Series 1 cockpit a number of years ago, and I can say unequivocally that as soon as he developed the plans, I really wanted one. I just have never had space. I'm active duty military, so unfortunately I move every few years. So as you can see, it's a pretty decent sized thing. So I've just never really had a place to put one. But as luck would have it, I am involved with our local Civil Air Patrol Squadron, and we got a stem kit from the National Headquarters Civil Air Patrol that was a rudder pedal yoke and the software license for Prepare 3D. And around the same time, Gene had a already fully constructed Series 1 in his shop that he was looking to get rid of because he needed some space for some of his other cool toys. And so we snapped it up, and along with some of the other people in the squadron, we repainted it with this cool Civil Air Patrol paint job and did a few other modifications and whatnot and got it running. So I'm just going to walk through, and my son's flying it right now to kind of show it off a little bit, but I'll show some of the modifications we did for our specific setup and then just kind of show the cockpit overall. I can say without a doubt this is a great starter cockpit base for a fighter type cockpit. I think I would still love to build one of these someday once I retire and I'm not moving around all the time and I have some space for it. I'd still really like to build one of these my own. But also so I'll go around. Now, the one thing I'll say is our Civil Air Patrol Squadron, again, we got the yoke, we got the rudder pedals, etc. We got some other things donated, but we're still waiting on purchasing a computer to run everything. So the computer I have set up right now is actually my son's that we're just borrowing. We're doing a big recruiting event in a few days, and we wanted to have everything up and running for the recruiting event. So without further ado, so we'll walk around a little bit. One of the first things we did, so we've got the little back panel open here, and as you can see, we've got a subwoofer and speakers back there, mounted up next to the seat. And again, eventually all the cords will be run nicely and that sort of thing. So some of that stuff isn't quite finished yet, but it's to the point where it'll at least runs. And then moving around, I'll just show off the front. You can see, so this panel here flips up for easy access to the stuff back there, which is nice. And then there's another panel open up front. You can see you got the rudder pedals in there with my son's slippers and his feet. And again, eventually what we'd probably do is have the computer mounted up inside, but for right now, my son's computer is just setting out here, and just things kind of strewn about. Extra keyboard here, or not extra keyboard, but the keyboard setting out here, just because obviously using it for the recruiting event, we'll have someone outside the sim who's setting everything up and running it for folks. But we could put that keyboard inside, so if you're flying this, by yourself, then that's totally doable. Now, here's where I'm going to get in kind of some of the modifications we made. So here, Benny, I'm going to open the cockpit up here real quick. So this kind of flips open and it's held by a chain right there, which is pretty cool. So the original cockpit is set up with an actual panel there, and somewhere around here I actually have the pieces that would have been up front there. But we took that out and mounted up this second monitor. So you can see I'm running, I've just got FSX running right now with the Coronado Cessna 182. So we have a Cessna 182 here locally with Civil Air Patrol. So I got Coronado's Cessna 182 add-on with the Garmin 1000 there. So we've got the Garmin 1000 displays there on the secondary monitor, and then just the outside view there. You can see, so here's the yoke we got. One little mod that I did that I kind of like is I repainted the knobs there. They just come as that basic gray that the switches are, was how those knobs were when we got it. But I painted them a proper black, blue, and red for the power, prop, and mixture respectively. And then I have a small number pad mounted there. It's this Velcro down, and then the trackball over there. So again, if you're just working on your flight stuff on your own, you can control stuff from inside. So I haven't done it yet, but I'll set up some scripts and reprogram keys to have those number pads do some stuff. And now you can see that whole setup there is mounted on this little platform. So that is aftermarket, I guess you could say. It was not part of Gene's original design. That's something that I kind of slapped together again to make this yoke setup work as opposed to a normal like joystick and throttle type setup. Now I'll show you something real quick here, Ben. Go ahead and push the yoke as far forward as you can. So see, yep, there you go. So you can go full forward on the yoke and you're not going to hit the monitor there. And I even left a little bit of a gap because eventually what I might do is put a faux panel in front of the monitor so you don't see the monitor itself. You just see the, the instruments showing through. But yeah, even if I don't get to that, that's no big deal. And you can see, and I point out in the other video, but got the little door stopper there to prevent the yoke from hitting anything as it gets flipped up. So 1 second, buddy. I'm going to pause it real quick, okay? Just so I can show. So now this is for guys like me. Now, obviously, a guy like Ben can get in and out no problem, right, buddy?
Yeah.
Yeah. But a guy like me, there's not much leg room there. So this whole thing is hinged, and there's a screw. You can kind of see it there on the back side of the cockpit there. So got the chain there, just hooks right there, and the whole thing is hinged up out of the way for a guy like me. I'm 6'4", and this actually leaves plenty of room for me to get in and out of the cockpit, which is pretty nice. And then once you're in, just unhook the chain. All right, I'll take you back off freeze, okay? All right, there you go. And he's off to the races. And then, yeah, so as you can see, it's not a super huge monitor up front, but it's plenty big enough for what we need it for. And if we ever want to go bigger, we can. But yeah, right now, super functional sim. I think I could actually very effectively use this for flight training, especially for, cadets, young cadets, 12 to 18 years, is the age range of Civil Air Patrol cadets. So I can certainly throw some kids into this and actually teach them the basics of flight. Right now we have the realism settings turned all the way down, of course, in FSX, because for a recruiting event, that's definitely what you want. But when it comes to actually teaching the aerospace education type stuff to, junior high and high school age kids, I think this is going to be a really, really effective tool. The other thing I haven't mentioned in this video, I think I talked about in the other one, but this whole thing comes apart. So I hauled this whole thing in the back of my van. It's about 40 inches wide, so it doesn't fit through a normal doorway the way it is right now, but the whole thing comes apart, and I was able, on my own, I had this whole thing from the level of assembly you see now to completely taken apart in about 25 minutes. And that was my first ever time doing it. And I also had forgotten a couple of tools that I didn't necessarily need, but that would have helped. So I forgot my, power screwdriver. So I had to use a manual screwdriver to take some of these screws off, which again, just slowed me down. But this whole thing, so this large headrest piece comes out, the seat comes out, canopy comes off, the windscreen comes off, that front panel there comes off, and then both side panels come off. The front and back panel, these things come off. And then all of the side panels come apart, and you're left with, I don't know if you can see it here. And it's all on wheels too, which rolls nicely, but you can kind of see that main area from about here to here is the base, and everything outside of that detaches. So it actually breaks down really, really well for transport and for fitting through doors, which is good because where we meet, we don't have any nice big double doors to get this through. So we're going to have to take it apart and get it all set up where we're going to put it. I don't know, Ben, what is your final analysis? What do you think?
It's cool.
It's cool.
And honestly,
Uh-huh.
I remember doing a VR simulator that was a lot. It used FSX like this.
Yep.
I crashed into so many buildings.
You sure did.
Yeah,
I've got some video somewhere of you doing that. That was at Gene's place too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then actually, I'm glad you mentioned that though, Bud, because eventually we would like to get a VR headset for Civil Air Patrol as well. So if we do, we'll just pop the canopy off because it is, World War II fighters, very confined spaces. So with that canopy down, I think a VR headset, you'd be bonking it on the canopy more than anything. But just pop the canopy off, or honestly, even just leave it open. And then this would be a perfect setup for VR as well. So I want to say with Gene's setup, he also had the windscreen off because that's going to get in the way of the VR trackers. But again, it all pops off very easily. The windscreen is just, that front windscreen is 4 bolts. I don't know if you can see them there. Everything's painted black, so it's kind of hard to see, but there's 2 on this side and 2 on the other side, of course, and that windscreen pops right off. So it's all very, very easy. So yes, so Gene's plans and everything for the Series 1, I believe, are freely available now. I'm going to double check that, but I'm pretty sure. So if they are, I will post that in the video description. So that if you wanted to build something like this on your own, you absolutely could. So anyway, hope you enjoyed.